Hi there and welcome to the CyberHut TV vendor introduction series. My name is Simon Moffat. I'm founder and analyst at the CyberHut, and in our vendor introduction series I get to interview lots of the smart identity centric vendors around the globe to understand a little bit more around some of the problems they are looking to solve. And absolutely thrilled and honoured to have Andrea from IAMones with us. Andrea, how are we doing?
Very good. Thanks for having me.
I've got to start. I know the story behind the name, but maybe you could give us your little backstory as to how you came up with the company name.
Yeah, the company name, it's a combination of my two passions. One is identity and access management, which have been in this market for a number of years, since the days that identity management wasn't even the term, back in the days at Novell 2005. And the other, it's a passion for punk rock and roll, and especially the Ramones band. So when I created my new company, I said, let's merge two passions, and that's how the name IAMones came about.
IAMones, I love that. I love stories behind names of IAMones. You're not going to forget this now, are you? People tap into that, they're going to think, Ramones, the rock,
Yeah, that's
the
why
rock band.
T-shirt as well.
Identity. Oh, I love that. I love that.
It.
Excellent. The Ramones, the identity company for the Ramones. Beautiful. So for those who haven't seen one of these episodes before, I essentially get to ask Andrea three very important questions to understand a little bit more behind the passion, other than punk rock music, but understand the passion behind his vision. So we start off with question number one, essentially, is what is the problem that IAMones is trying to solve?
So I've been in this domain for quite a few years. I already built and sold one company, Cross Ideas, to IBM. So I've seen the birth and the rise of the problems that are plaguing identity governance today. I would say the number one problem is, despite what you're trying to do today with the current technologies or pre-AI, pre-large language model technology, any user, business users are lost in translation. The word of a technical entitlement is not understood by the business user terminology. The second problem, so the first problem is providing a simple way for business users to use this system, which is not there today. Today, it's a blocking factor. Two, the second problem that we're trying to solve is spending less money and be way more efficient on translating that word of entitlement to make it understandable to business user. So removing the barrier of having go through roles, but also removing the barrier that today prevents a lot of document-based knowledge, application descriptions, separation of duty policies, organizational description. There is a wealth of knowledge that is useful for a better identity that sits in PDF and Word documents. And that stuff basically doesn't flow into any standard IGA implementation today. At best, 5%. So these are essentially the three problems that we're trying to solve. So one side, make it easier to the business user, using natural language as the way to interact with the system, but also the natural language, it's the way to configure the product instead of coding, configuring, and waiting months.
That's fascinating. I liked how you sort of used that word, the sort of pre-AI world, which I think it's interesting as we sort of evolve our technology. If that pre and post AI existence is having such a change, not just on obviously how we build software, but I think importantly, as you describe, is how we use these technologies, configure and administer, as well as the business user or the end user interacting with our technology. I think that's really quite a nice the pre and post world of AI, which sort of leads me into the next question, really. So why is this becoming a problem now? Obviously, IGA, as you say, has been around 20 years at least, really, from a commercial perspective, driven by compliance, who has access to what. Clearly, there's the sort of regulation aspect there as well. But it seems to me IGA it becomes a bigger problem each year, that there are more systems to manage, there are more identities to manage. So is it just, as you say, is it this pre-AI technology is it just redundant? Is it not capable of handling this? Why is this becoming more of an issue today, do you think?
Well, this is a problem now. I mean, the problem that we are trying to address on the compliance side has been there for ages. Okay. The problem today is that the identity word is not really providing any solution to the cyber risk, cyber warfare where we're living. Simple things like understanding privilege escalations as part of an identity system today, is that easy? No. Uh, Triggering recertifications based on cyber scores or cyber data points are like a data breach credential. Uh, the world of identity today, it's a bit isolated in its compliance world, is not providing much information to the real world that security and identity should fight together, which is the world we live today. So it is becoming a problem because there are data sitting in legacy, maybe 10 years old implementation that are totally not used for the cyber war that we're fighting. So it's a problem now because we're living that moment, and we're having regulations like DORA and NIS2, which are basically,
Yeah.
you know, making this problem to emerge dramatically. Um, so this is essentially the reason why the problem is there now. I mean, there are data, identity, and identity doesn't play a real contribute to the cyber war that every enterprise is fighting today.
Oh, yeah, I think it's a really subtle thing, isn't it? As well, it's the role of identity in that cyber avenue, and as you say, I think things like threat informed defense, leveraging cyber threat intelligence, understanding behaviors, privilege escalation, account takeover, and so on, is really important. And pulling in those cyber signals, essentially the behaviors, the TTPs, the tactics, techniques, and procedures of the bad guys, and as you say, overlaying and allowing that to be fed into the identity space, I think is a really, really important one. For sure, which sort of neatly segues into the third part, really, is to why IAMones is best placed to solve this. What is your secret sauce, other than punk rock music, of course? What are you guys doing differently, which hasn't been done before?
Well, I think we have the luxury to start fresh and use not AI, generically speaking. In a way, I hate the term AI, and I'll be more specific. The new magic ingredient, which will revolutionize the software industry. Whereas there was code, now there is going to be a fine-tuned large language model, domain-specific intelligence, or large language model. So I think the reason why we're best placed to solve it is because we had the luxury to start foundationally with this new ingredient. So you find many vendors that will place some conversational UI on top of an engine which is based on traditional configuration and code. We have a simple motto: ask everything and configure everything with your mother tongue. So it's not about giving the user the ability to ask questions in their natural language, German, Italian, French, English, whatever, but also to configure the system, workflow, visibility policy, separation of duty violations, entitlement description, enrichment in the same natural language. And we have the luxury because we foundationally started developing the product with that in mind. No code, just natural language instructions. And that's our clear advantage over the legacy players that, they have phenomenal products, but most they can do is just to put a thin layer of conversational chatbot stuff on top of a traditional software-based engine for identity.
Fantastic. There's so many benefits there around, as you said, the rapidity of deployment, interacting with things without having to change your own behaviors. I think definitely been a big issue with IGA technology in the past, which has been forcing the organization to change how they do things, change their process, change their technology, change how they do things. Whereas I think this approach sounds like it's more about meeting the business where they are, allowing them to use natural language, to use the product, configure the product, engage, interact, and be adaptive, which I think that's really pretty unique. And again, it boils down to this pre-AI or pre-LLM world and the post-LLM world, and having it, as you describe, as sort of being naturally immersed in this sort of large language area, which I think is really, really fascinating. I think, do you think it's going to bring in different stakeholders into the sort of IGA space here, do you think, as well? Just I'm thinking more non-technical people, I guess.
Absolutely. I think it's, I mean, the equation of an identity project will change dramatically because today you have someone who's writing specifications on a piece of paper and then hand it over to a developer who's trying to configure the product. And as I say, based on my experience, whatever document says, 7% of what is written in natural language can go into any today pre-AI IGA product. In the future, that document will be the instruction that can flow directly to the system. So in other words, we will have to educate business owners, HR people, risk people to write things in a clear and descriptive mode so that the large language model can understand. So there is no magic here, okay? If you want the large language model to reason using your instruction, they have to be written clearly, natural language, but there is a method to the madness. And that practice of involving these stakeholders and saying, basically, you're writing the code. Your PDF is the new language. We require these people to be more engaged in the projects compared to what they are today, where they we might do 1 or 2 meetings, then they write their stuff, and then someone else is supposed to implement it. They will be part of the implementation equation with their documents written in their natural language. It's the world of prompt engineering, if you like, and this is changing or reshuffling the entire software ecosystem. We are just a vertical implementation of that in the world of identity. And our vertical LM implementation, it's basically an expert in identity. But the same thing is today happening in all the hundreds of software industries where this new ingredient, it's really lowering the barriers. It's sort of removing a lot of code development, to be honest with you.
I love that. I love that. Prompt engineering, as you say, it is proliferating in other sectors, and I think engaging different stakeholders. Identity is a people-centric and a non-people-centric approach. It touches all parts of the business, all use cases, all sectors, all regions, all geographies, all data interactions, all information flows. So I think the broader the adoption, pulling in as much information as you can and then exposing that to as many different stakeholders as possible, I think is a really powerful thing. It's thanks for taking a bit of time out there, Andrea, from listening to the Ramones and changing the world of LLM-based identity. It's been really interesting to understand how you guys see the world, which I think is pretty different actually to what has gone before. So certainly looking forward to knowing more. This has been another episode in the CyberHut TV Vendor Introduction Series. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.